You're driving down the LIE flat straight, boring, right? But underneath your tires is a 4 billion year story. Mountain collisions, vanished oceans, a wall of ice a mile high, and a river of meltwater that basically built the ground you're standing on. Today, how Long Island actually got here. Welcome to Buried Under Long Island. Let's start way before Long Island was even an island. Down deep past the sand and soil, there's bedrock over 350 million years old. The same rock family as the bedrock under Manhattan. Manhattan's version stayed exposed as skyscraper-worthy bedrock. Long Island's got buried under layer after layer of sediment washing off the continent for tens of millions of years ever since the Atlantic Ocean tore open around 200 million years ago.
So it just sits there buried for basically the entire age of dinosaurs?
Pretty much, until the glaciers show up and start digging. About 21,000 years ago, the Laurentide ice sheet creeps down from Canada, ice a mile thick, grinding south like a bulldozer the size of a continent. Long Island marks the terminus, as far south as that ice sheet got before it stalled and retreated. That's the literal reason the island exists as a landform at all.
So the island's shape is just where the glacier happened to stop?
Exactly, and when it stalled, it kept dumping rock and sand and gravel in the same spot for centuries, building up ridges called moraines. Long Island's got two, the moraine running through the Pine Barrens out to Montauk and the Harbor Hill moraine along the north shore. Those ridges are the hills of Long Island. Even Long Island Sound used to be a dry river valley before the glacier gouged it deeper and meltwater flooded it into the sound we know today. South of those moraines, meltwater rivers spread sand and gravel out into a flat outwash plain. That's most of the South Shore, which is why the LIE is so straight compared to the winding North Shore roads. And that sandy, fast-draining, nutrient-poor soil is exactly why the Pine Barrens exist. Pitch pines and scrub oak can survive it, most other trees can't. Bonus, all that porous sand and gravel is also why Long Island's entire drinking water supply comes from underground aquifers.
So the Pine Barrens are basically a glacier's leftovers?
Direct leftovers. And speaking of leftovers, those eroding bluffs at Montauk and along the North Shore occasionally cough up mastodon and mammoth remains. Mastodons especially like the cool tundra-like landscape right at the edge of the retreating ice. They vanished around 10,000 to 13,000 years ago, likely some mix of climate warming and pressure from early human hunters arriving around that same window. And humans have been here a long time, at least 10,000 years. Indigenous nations, including the Settlecot, Massapequa, Shinnecock, and Montaukett, part of the broader Algonquian-speaking world, built a sophisticated relationship with this landscape. Shellfishing, seasonal movement between coastal and inland sites, and quarrying local flint for tools. Long Island's shell-rich shoreline also made it a major production center for wampum, the shell bead currency used across the Northeast, giving indigenous communities here real economic significance well beyond the island. Then colonization hits in the 1600s and it splits the island almost down the middle. The western towns fall under Dutch New Netherland influence. The eastern towns get settled by English Puritans from New England, starting in the 1640s, actually before New York City had much of a formal English presence.
That explains why Long Island place names feel like two different languages collided.
Exactly. Flatbush and Flushing on the Dutch side, Southampton and Southold on the English side. For a stretch, the eastern towns even looked toward Connecticut for political alignment instead of Dutch New Amsterdam. England finally unifies the whole island as New York in 1664, but that early cultural split never fully washes out. Jump forward to the Gilded Age, and the North Shore's old moraine hills become prime real estate for the ultra-wealthy. Vanderbilt's, Whitney's, Guggenheim's building massive estates from Great Neck to Huntington. It gets nicknamed the Gold Coast, and F. Scott Fitzgerald, who lived in Great Neck, used it as the model for East Egg and West Egg in The Great Gatsby. Meanwhile, the Long Island Railroad, around since the 1830s, shifts from a through route into the thing that makes commuting possible. Once you can live 30 miles from Manhattan and still get to work in under an hour, farmland suddenly has a new kind of value, housing. Which brings us to Levittown. Right after World War II, facing a massive housing shortage, the Levitt family buys up potato farmland in Nassau County and mass produces houses almost like a factory assembly line. Over 17,000 nearly identical homes go up between 1947 and 1951, affordable for working and middle-class families thanks to GI Bill financing. It becomes the template for the modern American suburb, copied nationwide for decades, though it's worth noting that boom also came with racially restrictive practices that excluded black families from buying in early Levittown, a significant and ugly part of that same story. So next time you're stuck in traffic on the LIE, you're driving on top of 350 million year old bedrock underneath a pile of ice age rubble on a sand plain shaped by melting glaciers in a place mammoths used to walk that humans have called home for 10,000 years that got carved up between Dutch and English settlers, farmed for potatoes, and eventually turned into the literal blueprint for American suburbia. Not bad for the boring flat part near the city. That's the episode. Thanks for listening to Buried Under Long Island.